This is a bridge really training for what? Wow. Go, baby, go. Look, see out here? The training are walking in the water.
You know, when we try to picture $1 trillion, I feel like the human brain just kind of, well, it simply shorts out.
Oh, absolutely. It's too big.
Right. We end up visualizing these massive abstract concepts like, I don't know, space exploration programs or a giant fleet of aircraft carriers.
Yeah, or like mega cities just suddenly rising out of the desert.
Exactly. It's a number that is so staggeringly huge that it feels like it belongs entirely, up in the sky, like it's far removed from our daily commute.
It becomes an abstraction, like a theoretical limit almost. I mean, once you cross into the billions, let alone the trillions, the numbers just lose their physical reality for most of us.
Yeah.
They become macroeconomic weather patterns rather than actual money-changing hands.
But today, for this deep dive, we are bringing that abstraction violently down to earth.
Yes, we are.
We're looking at one single broken bridge in a community called Kaneville and the kids who actually have to cross it every single morning.
It's a stark contrast.
It really is.
Yeah.
And through the lens of this one highly concentrated piece of social media activism, that one rickety local bridge ends up carrying the entire weight of $1 trillion national budget.
Which is just fascinating. It serves as this perfect case study in how a hyper-local grievance can be engineered into a sweeping systemic indictment of government infrastructure.
That is why today we're taking a deep dive into one specific, meticulously crafted source. It's literally just a single Facebook post.
Just one post.
Just one, from a page known as T. Muhammad, and it's directed at a government official, Minister Kwame.
Right.
We are going to unpack how just a few short sentences manage to weave together, immediate physical danger, layers of bureaucratic failure, and absolute colossal financial figures.
But before we dissect the mechanics of this post, we really do have to establish the parameters of our analysis here.
Yeah, that's important.
Because this source material deals directly with political figures and government spending and very raw public grievances, we need to state explicitly that our approach today is completely neutral.
100%. We are not here to take sides. We aren't auditing the government. We aren't, verifying the exact financial figures presented. And we are certainly not endorsing the viewpoints of the original poster or the official they're targeting.
Exactly.
Our goal is strictly analytical. We are examining the rhetorical architecture of the post, like how the arguments are constructed, why the emotional appeals are deployed, and how the author strategically uses numbers to force a reaction.
The focus is entirely on the how and the why of the message. I mean, we want to understand the machinery of modern public-facing advocacy, basically treating the text itself as a tactical blueprint.
So let's jump right into the text.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack this. The hyperlocal crisis kicks off the entire post with a direct plea to this government official. It says, Minister Kwame, please ensure this bridge in Kaneville is done ASAP.
Wow.
Right. There's no pleasantry, no preamble at all, just a direct demand placed squarely at the feet of a specific individual in power.
Which is a really aggressive way to open any correspondence, frankly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But to understand the urgency of that tone, we have to look at the bureaucratic context the author provides in the very next sentence. They write, numerous reports were made to the NDC, RDC, and even you know of this.
I really want to pause on that sentence because it implies a very specific kind of exhaustion to me.
Oh, definitely.
They explicitly name the Neighborhood Democratic Council, the NDC, and the Regional Democratic Council, the RDC. It's like they're laying out the organizational chart of local government just to show that they have already climbed it.
What's fascinating here is that they're establishing the complete exhaustion of official channels.
Right.
The author is mapping out the failure of the exact hierarchy that's designed to handle this problem. I mean, the neighborhood council is supposed to manage local maintenance.
Sure.
When they fail, citizens escalate to the regional council. And when the region fails, they escalate to the national level, which in this case is represented by Minister Kwame.
But I kind of have to push back a little on the strategy here.
Okay, go ahead.
Why jump straight to tagging a national minister on a public Facebook page? I mean, isn't that sort of the equivalent of tweeting at the CEO of an airline because your specific tray table is broken?
That's a good point.
It just seems disproportionate, right?
Yeah.
Why does fixing a local bridge require hauling a minister into the public square?
Well, the author is basically arguing that the internal plumbing of the government is hopelessly clogged.
Ah, I see.
By stating they filed numerous reports with the NDC and RDC, the Post paints a deliberate picture of a paralyzed system. The message they're sending is, we played by your rules, we used the proper bureaucratic mechanisms, we filled out the forms.
Nothing happened.
Exactly. And when the official architecture of accountability collapses, citizens have to externalize their grievances. They basically have to manufacture a public relations crisis because the infrastructure crisis wasn't enough to get attention.
So they just bypass the filing cabinet and go straight for the viral megaphone.
Pretty much.
It's like submitting an urgent maintenance ticket to your landlord because there's a leak in your roof. They ignore it. So you escalate to the building manager. They ignore it.
Right.
Then the property owner just ghosts you. And finally, you're just standing in the street with a megaphone, shouting at the building, hoping the sheer public embarrassment forces someone to act.
That megaphone analogy gets even sharper when you look at the final clause of that sentence.
Oh.
Yeah, they write, and even you know of this.
Oh, wow. They are closing the loop right there.
They really are. They are entirely eliminating the defense of ignorance. I mean, a common bureaucratic shield is simply claiming the report never made it to the right desk.
We never got the memo.
Right, exactly. But by publicly stating the minister already knows, the author traps the official. The system can't claim they were unaware of the problem. The Post is saying they were aware, and they chose inaction.
That's bold.
It is. The transition to a public forum strips away the anonymity that usually protects bureaucratic delay.
If you're listening to this and wondering how you would get your own local pothole or broken street light fixed, think about how public visibility completely changes the incentive structure for a politician.
It's night and day.
A private complaint is a maintenance issue, but a public complaint, that is a political vulnerability.
Which leads us to the author's next tactical move. Once they have the public's attention, how do they design the message to guarantee maximum discomfort for the official?
Here's where it gets really interesting. They pivot straight to an intense emotional appeal. The Post literally says, it's heart-wrenching to see our school children walk on this bridge to go to school. It is not safe.
Notice the surgical choice of words there.
Yeah.
They don't say pedestrians, they don't say commuters, they say school children.
It immediately raises the stakes, right? From a logistical inconvenience to a moral failing.
Exactly.
A broken bridge means your commute takes an extra 10 minutes. But a broken bridge that school children are forced to walk across, that means a tragedy is imminent.
And the author uses the word heart-wrenching to force the reader and the minister to visualize that daily risk.
Yeah.
They're demanding that you picture small children with heavy backpacks navigating a precarious, unstable structure over water. It creates a very real, visceral anxiety.
But then they follow up that highly vulnerable emotional image with a number that genuinely gives me whiplash.
The contrast is huge.
The very next sentence is, this year, $227 billion was allocated to build roads and bridges. I mean, they slam the micro and the macro into the exact same frame.
Yeah.
But hold on, isn't that kind of a completely unfair comparison?
Unfair how?
Well, you can't spend a national multi-billion-dollar infrastructure budget entirely on one local bridge in Kaneville.
Right.
The government has an entire country to run, right? Highways to pave, major arteries to construct. Isn't pairing one tiny neighborhood bridge with a $227 billion figure just bad faith math designed to make the government look ridiculous?
I wouldn't say it's bad faith. It's not about literal budgetary constraints. It's about exposing a priority gap.
Okay, tell me more.
The author isn't suggesting the entire $227 billion should go to Kaneville. They are using that massive figure to strip away the most common excuse politicians use, which is a lack of funding.
Because you can't exactly shrug and say, well, we just don't have the money in the budget.
Yeah.
When the public knows you have $227 billion earmarked for this exact category of infrastructure.
Exactly. The implication is devastatingly clear. The text forces the official to answer a very uncomfortable question. You have hundreds of billions of dollars at your disposal right now, this very year, specifically for roads and bridges.
Right.
Given that abundance of resources, why are children in Kaneville risking their lives on a broken one?
It creates this massive cognitive dissonance. On one side, you have the physical reality of a 70-pound child risking their safety just to get a basic education.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have $227 billion. The gap between those two realities feels completely unacceptable to anyone reading it.
It transforms an administrative failure into a question of basic human empathy versus bureaucratic excess. If the money is clearly there and the need is desperate and life-threatening, what is the holdup? The text isolates the official by basically neutralizing their standard defenses.
The psychological whiplash really is brilliant. I mean, you feel the anxiety for the kids, and in the very next breath, you feel outrage at the sheer amount of money seemingly floating around unspent.
And it goes even further.
It does, because the Post doesn't stop at this year's budget. The author zooms out even further and drops a number that completely alters the gravity of the entire conversation.
They move from the immediate present into a multi-year historical context.
Yeah. Let me read the final section of the Post. It says, from 2020 to 2026, over $1 trillion allocated to build roads and bridges, but we have so many unfinished roads and bridges.
Over $1 trillion.
$1 trillion. I am struggling to understand what dropping $1 trillion statistic achieves that the previous 227 billion stat didn't.
Right.
Are they actually expecting Minister Kwame to log on to Facebook, jump into the comments section, and provide an itemized receipt for a multi-year national budget?
Not at all. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the Kaneville Bridge has become a Trojan horse for a much, much larger accusation.
A Trojan horse. I like that.
This is where the Post graduates from a local plea for maintenance into a systemic critique of national governance. The local bridge is no longer just a bridge. It is undeniable, physical proof of a massive macro issue.
So what does this all mean? The macro issue being the unfinished roads and bridges despite $1 trillion budget.
Exactly. Look closely at the word allocated. The author actually uses it twice.
Okay.
Allocated means the money has been earmarked on paper. The budget has been approved in a legislative chamber. The funds theoretically exist in a ledger somewhere.
Right.
But the phrase unfinished roads and bridges represents the physical reality on the ground, in the dirt.
So the text is weaponizing the gap between the paperwork and the pavement.
That's a great way to put it.
The paperwork says $1 trillion is building a modernized, perfect country. But the pavement says kids in Kaneville can't even walk to school safely.
And the author's pointing out that a multi-year timeline from 2020 to 2026 isn't a sudden, unexpected crisis.
No.
This is a sustained program of massive spending spanning the past, the present, and the near future. $1 trillion is nation-building money.
It really is.
It is the kind of capital that is supposed to entirely transform a region's infrastructure, practically overnight.
You know, it reminds me of corporate vaporware in the tech industry.
Oh, how so?
Well, you have a company promising investors this revolutionary $1 trillion artificial intelligence platform that's going to change the world.
Right.
But meanwhile, their basic company website keeps crashing when you try to log in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You start to wonder if the revolutionary product actually exists at all, or if it's all just a shiny pitch deck.
That is an incredibly apt metaphor. When the author points out that despite this nation-building level of investment, there are still so many unfinished roads and bridges, they are systematically dismantling the government's entire narrative of progress. They're using the tangible reality of Kaneville to prove that the $1 trillion allocation is essentially a statistical illusion to the people who actually need it.
They are daring the authorities to dispute their lived experience. I mean, the government can put out all the glossy press releases they want about $1 trillion infrastructure boom.
Sure.
But T. Mohammed is saying, okay, those are cool numbers on a spreadsheet, but look at this broken, dangerous bridge right here in our neighborhood. Explain this.
It totally undermines the big numbers, which leads us directly to the ultimate demand in the final sentence of the Post.
Oh, right. We must question, where is the money going?
Yes.
That is heavy. That is no longer about getting a maintenance crew out to Kaneville with some lumber and nails. That is direct accusation of gross mismanagement.
It is a demand for absolute fiscal transparency. Pay attention to the phrasing there. We must question.
Right.
Exactly. The author shifts the pronoun. It isn't just a question aimed upwards at Minister Kwame anymore. It is a horizontal call to action for the public. It is inviting the audience, the everyday citizens scrolling past this Facebook post, to join in the skepticism.
They're building a coalition of doubt. Like they start the post talking directly to the minister, but by the end, they're actually talking to everyone else.
Yeah.
They're looking at their neighbors and saying, hey, if the government is ignoring our children's bridge, what are they doing with your $1 trillion?
They've successfully transitioned from a highly localized complaint about neighborhood safety into a broad populist demand for national accountability. They use the micro to validate the macro.
That's so effective.
The logic they present to the reader is airtight. If the government cannot manage to fix a simple, dangerous bridge for school children in Kaneville, how can they possibly be trusted to manage a $1 trillion 6-year infrastructure allocation?
It is genuinely wild how much rhetorical machinery we just extracted from one short social media post.
It really is.
I mean, when we started this deep dive, we were looking at what seemed like a standard grievance about a local commute. But tracing the journey of this text reveals something so much more complex.
We started with a localized physical danger, a hazardous route for school kids in Kaneville.
Right.
We followed the trail of ignored paperwork through the bureaucratic shields of the NDC and the RDC. We watched the authors weaponize a $227 billion annual budget to highlight the absurdity of that neglect, creating this unbearable cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
And finally, we ended up at a massive public demand for answers regarding a $1 trillion national infrastructure plan spanning over half a decade.
This single source is a masterclass in understanding how power and visibility work today. When the traditional bureaucratic channels of a democracy become sluggish or completely unresponsive, citizens don't just give up.
No, they adapt.
They learn to leverage the digital tools at their disposal.
In the modern era, that means using the stark, undeniable contrast between local, visible failures and massive, abstract public budgets to publicly demand accountability.
It really does.
Social media has effectively become the ultimate court of appeals when the NDC and the RDC refuse to process a maintenance ticket.
It really is the megaphone in the street, just amplified to reach the entire country. And it leaves me with one really haunting thought, building on everything we've just deconstructed today.
What's that?
Well, we've seen the incredible effort, the strategic framing, the emotional appeals, and the sheer volume of public noise it took just to flag this one specific issue in Kaneville.
The burden of proof required to get basic maintenance is just staggering.
It is. So here is something for you to mull over as we wrap up today. If it takes a viral, perfectly engineered public shaming campaign citing $1 trillion budgets just to get eyes on one dangerous bridge for school children.
Yeah.
What happens to all the other unfinished projects in areas that don't have a team championing them on Facebook?
That is the insidious danger of a system that only responds to public relations crises.
Right.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, but the silent wheel just falls off the axle entirely.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, that $1 trillion we talked about at the beginning, it isn't supposed to be just an abstract concept floating up in the sky like a space station.
No.
It's supposedly right there, on the ground, in the dirt.